Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Fox. Welcome to my channel. Well, the stock market received bad news on Friday with the Producer Price Index, the PPI. It went up year on year. The headline PPI went up 0.9%. Now you would think that was good news because the previous month it came in at 1.0 for the year on year headline number. But the problem was with the monthly number. We are at the point where we're wanting inflation to decrease, and the previous month the PPI went down 0.1% on the two-month number, but this month it increased to 0.3%. We're seeing that increase in the PPI on the yearly basis, and the core was really bad. It came in at 2% for the year, and it increased 0.5% for the month, the core PPI number, which excludes everything you need to live, which includes food and energy. The core PPI numbers were significant increases from what was expected and what had occurred the previous month. This PPI isn't factored in as heavily as CPI, but it's still looked at because it eventually will lead to the CPI. And the recent CPI had some real concerns involving mainly shelter. Shelter for the year is going up at a rate of 6%. There's some troubling signs that inflation could reemerge. The former president of Harvard University, Larry Summers, who also was involved with the White House, he predicted that don't be shocked if we actually have a rate increase coming. So now we got people saying we could actually have a rate increase instead of just a long wait to get a rate cut, which is troubling. So it was a very wild day for the stock market. Nothing was wilder than super microcomputer SMCI. In the pre-market, it went as high as 1,050. At that point, I determined that I got to set just a simple stop loss. So I wanted to set it so it would preserve my gains while giving it some wiggle room if the craziness continued on higher. In my heart, I kind of knew this has got to come down at some point. When it gets over 1,000, how many people are going to be tempted to say, man, this is good enough, and just cash in? And I can see that, and I don't blame you a bit. And you were very smart if you did that, as it turns out. But I set my stop loss, a simple stop loss, at 960, and it triggered in, and I saved most of my gains. So I was very happy about that. And what do I think about the future with super microcomputer? I think the big deal with super microcomputer is that it has servers. It's one of the few companies, if not the only company, that has servers complex enough to handle artificial intelligence. That's the big selling point. They also do some security and storage, but their servers are the big deal. Insight, whose symbol is NSIT, had a rough week. They reported earnings this week, and it was a mixed bag in many ways. I thought the bottom line was reassuring. That's why you see, when you look at the chart, you see the sudden drop on Thursday. That's in response to the earnings. Their sales were down, but their earnings were up. Okay? What's happening is they're selling less hardware and selling more things from the cloud. And they signed a deal with Microsoft. They formed a partnership with Microsoft involving the cloud. So they're going to be doing much more of that. In fact, they had significantly less hardware sales, but their cloud business increased 43%, which overall brought their earnings and profit up 2% for the year. So it's a mixed bag, but I think it's a bump in the road, and I think it's a transition to them doing more cloud-based things, which I think is a good direction for them to go, especially with their partnership with Microsoft. So I'm sticking with it until I'm stopped out again. And part of the reason for sticking with them is when you look at the 3-month chart, you can see that they've been a steady grower, and I see this as a bump in the road. VERH Holdings had a very impulsive week. It's a little bit like Super Microcomputer, only not quite as bad. It was going between this range of 60 to 64 or 65. And if you have a 4% trigger on your stop loss, you're going to get triggered all the time. I finally gave it up and just put a simple stop loss of $58 on it. If it goes below 58, then I'm stopped out. So this is a volatile stock, but again, it has a good longer range prognosis and course and history. So I'm sticking with it. Again, it all depends on that February 21st Nvidia earnings. My A-team artificial intelligence stock had a ho-hum week. Advanced Micro Devices and Broadcom, whose symbol is AVGO, each went down about 2%, while ASML was flat. It went up 0.3%. So I see these as sort of normal stocks, that they're going to be carried largely by Nvidia's earnings on the 21st. And the star of the show, of course, is Nvidia, good old NVDA. I think it's going to plot the course for artificial intelligence and for the entire stock market, because it's basically artificial intelligence that has been holding the market up. And as we look at the chart, we can see that it's been consolidating, but it dropped off at the end of the day on Friday, which is not a good sign, but is to be expected. All these stocks suffered from the 3-day weekend. People like to sell before a 3-day weekend. So I think that definitely was in play. I also have a fellow trader who says that the corporations and brokerages, the big traders, are going to try to drive the price down before earnings so that they can get in on a good price and experience the explosive growth if the earnings are especially good. So I'm going to hang on. I got a stop loss at about 714. So we'll see if that holds. If I get stopped out, I'll just wait until the earnings come out and then either jump back in or stay out, depending on what happens with the earnings. It's oversold right now. The relative, it's at the bottom of its Bollinger Bands, and its relative strength is only 29, which indicates to me that it's being oversold. So we have the chart possibly working in our favor, but it's all going to depend on those earnings, and we hope it's a blowout. Once again, we'll be taking the journey with the satellite called SMCI. Super Microcomputer will fly into the stratosphere and take us to a planet where we've never been before. That was the dream originally. It was kind of fulfilled this week, and it had to turn around. It was just getting too crazy. But the craziness might start again if Nvidia has blowout earnings. Be sure to return and see how this all turns out. Thank you.
I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found.